Hello, I'm Soap, and today I'm going to be talking about the lore behind astronomy in Royale High, so basically just talking about the meanings of the moon and the stars. Honestly, I've been procrastinating this theory video for at least a year, so that's kind of crazy. This won't come together all for a big theory, but they're all similar things, so that's why I put them in the same video. Anyways, first let's talk about the constellations, and by the constellations I mean the ones you see in the stargazing class, where you catch all the falling stars and stuff. The first constellation that stands out to me was the Valkyrie helmet, which obviously this links to Lumina, but not only Lumina, but the line of Valkyries in general, because the Valkyrie is the guardian of the Royale High universe, the Enchantress. So it makes sense that the Valkyrie would be in the sky. The closest real-life comparison I could find was the Charioteer constellation, which has links to Roman and Greek mythology, but I couldn't really find much on it. This constellation is the shape of a helmet. I guess that kind of links to the Valkyries because they're heroes of some sort. Anyways, it makes sense for a symbol of the Valkyrie to be up in the sky, or since they're just stars, people put them together and say, oh, that looks like a Valk helmet, because they're obviously going to think that because of the importance of the line of Valkyries and Lumina, etc. Constellations are symbols of things that are important in the Royal High universe, as well as things that link to stories as well. There's also a mermaid constellation, which makes sense since there's a heavy focus on mermaids now currently, and also makes sense because mermaids are one of the main Royal High species, hence a Royal High school for mermaids and fairies. That was in Chantix though. There aren't any mermaid constellations which in real life, which actually shocked me. There's a dolphin one, and that was linked to Poseidon. He wanted to court Aphrodite, and if you've watched my Mermaidel lore videos, you'll know about her. So then this dolphin guy helped him to get with Aphrodite. So he put a dolphin star constellation in the sky. I couldn't really see any close links to Royal High lore in any sort of sense. I mean, it also makes sense that a mermaid would be in the sky because the sea's links to the stars, because sailors would use constellations and the stars to guide where they're going. So I guess that makes sense for a mermaid to be there. Okay, another one I noticed was a scepter, and this is the same scepter you see in banners in the dungeons and such, which if you watched my 5 little things you may have missed in the dungeons video, I mentioned that the scepter in this picture didn't match any of the scepters, didn't match the Fountain Girl scepter, didn't match the teleportation one, but it actually does match the Harmonic Hearts Everfriend halo and wand, well, specifically the wand, so I guess it is a wand rather than a scepter, which is interesting because the whole description of the set is all about the harmony of all 6 elements and how powerful it is. Then there's also a constellation of 2 hearts, which I call diamonds because diamonds appear as hearts, but then there's also actual diamond shaped constellation as well. So I'm just gonna bunch those together because I mean I guess the hearts could also be a link to the Harmonic Hearts halo, and there's a lot of heart things symbols and halos and stuff, but I just linked that into diamonds, which is the main currency in Royal High, hence is in the sky. And yeah, I didn't have much else to say about those ones. And then there's one which I thought was a butterfly, but I thought about it and I was like, they're probably wings that represent fairies, since there's also mermaids in the constellation, so that makes sense. I don't really have much to say about fairies, except from we all start as elemental fairies in Royal High, so it makes sense that the main species of people would be represented in the sky. There's also a Unisys or a Pegasus. It looks more like a Pegasus to me because it doesn't look like it has a horn. But I said it was Unisys because Lumina has a Unisys as her I was gonna say familiar, she's not a witch, but kind of her companion. And Lumina is the current Valkyrie, and like I said earlier, Valkyries are the guardians who watch over Royal High. But in real life there's an actual Pegasus constellation. It's linked to Greek myth, and the Pegasus helps one of the sons of Poseidon, killed the Chimera. The Pegasus is pretty closely linked to being the helper of the heroes in Greek mythology, and that links back to how the Unisys is also the companion to Lumina and supposedly other Valkyries as well. Okay, let's talk about the moon. If you go to the Enchantraverse, you can see the moon above the Enchantraverse globe, directly above it. There's light coming from a crystal below it, which points directly to the Enchantraverse globe. Kind of makes it seem like the moon is powering the Enchantraverse globe. I'm calling the orb in the middle an Enchantraverse globe because it's described as a globe, which I thought was interesting because globe implies that the Enchantraverse is some sort of planet or moon, which, yeah, and it's also I wrote moon-shaped, well it's a sphere, so. There's also constellations around the Enchantraverse globe, which, again, interesting. And if you go to the dungeon door, on the walls near a drawing of the Enchantraverse, or in mermaid language it says the origin, which implies that the Enchantraverse is actually the origin of the universe, so that makes sense, that has association with stars and the moon and all that. I mean, in a way, maybe it could be similar to the Big Bang, and hear me out for this one. So the Big Bang implies that there is a center, not necessarily a center, but the universe expanded from one point, right? One highly dense point. So the Enchantraverse globe could be that, but like, I'm pretty sure this is a different universe to the one we live in. So I don't know. They probably have more magical reason for the universe expanding than the Big Bang. The moon also has like heavy links to like the sea, because the moon's gravity controls the tides in the sea. So it makes sense that the moon would be so prominent in the recent lore that's associated with like the ocean and mermaids and all that. Again, there's more evidence that the moon is a form of magic, because when we're like making our fishlings, the water is only magical under the moonlight at nighttime, and that implies magic that we derive from the moon has the ability to create life, because we literally created like the fishlings from nothing, which would make sense why people would be researching it. That's kind of a theory of mine from the last theory video, that why they wanted to hide the throne room / dungeons area is because they were researching mermaid potions and possibly how to create life and get back to Divinia. Also, the Lunar Lagoon, that's a bit on the nose, since Lunar Lagoon, but that's only open at full moon, and that's when all the mermaids are supposedly meant to gather. Obviously that's when we trade, but the implication that mermaids come together and form like a market every full moon, like, it shows the moon is very significant, which makes sense to a community of mermaids because the moon controls the tides, so the moon would seem like a godlike figure to them. The Enchantraverse in the water obby section could possibly be seen as pearls, but like they're spherical objects which I would say resemble the moon, which again makes sense for like the water element because how the moon links to the tides. But yeah, it seems like a very like, the moon seems like a thing of worship, like an idol to a lot of like these merfolk and like water fairies and all that. In this section, I'm going to be talking about some of the dark fairy abilities. So one of the abilities is power over space molecules and dark matter, which that sounds way too overpowered, honestly. Power over dark matter is interesting because dark matter is what we call like matter in space that we don't know what it's made of. That's why it's called dark matter. It's like really mysterious, hence the name. Another ability that links to like space is calling upon shooting stars and meteors using gravitational pulls. I think it's interesting that dark fairies have like gravitational pulls. That's very like linked to the moon and stuff, so I guess that makes sense. But shooting stars and meteors, that reminds me a lot of the stargazing minigame. But now onto the aliens. I normally don't talk about like lore this old, like in the training hub, but since this also appears on the control panel in the computer class, I assume that means it's part of the current lore as well. But you can find this information in the training hub like control center and in the computer class. I mean, I think generally it's a bit weird that space and aliens are a part of Royale High lore. Like they actually exist. Like go to the training hub, there's aliens there, and we're in space because we're in a spaceship. But anyways, it seems like the intention for going to space was to search for more diamonds and like other planets that have more diamonds. Does this imply that other planets have diamonds as their main currency as well, or are we just like farming them, like mining them? Also to the side we see one of the devs, i7, saying, "Is anyone there? Please, if you can read this, get back to me. The alien queen is seeking revenge for me, crashing her ship." I mean, she totally didn't change the oil like I told her to, but that's beside the point. She's trying to take my diamonds out. That kind of does support the fact that other planets have diamonds as a currency as well, which is interesting. Or maybe the alien queen is just doing it as a punishment. I don't have much to say about that part, but I never knew how to bring up this like really tiny bit of lore, so I just put it in my astronomy video. Anyways, that's pretty much it. My next lore video will probably be coming out next week, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.